Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Giant Nose. I'm Cody.
I'm Mundo, your one and only man of explorer of giant noses.
And I'm Licia, and I'm supporting the people that are exploring giant noses.
There's a giant nose here.
I think I see some giant teeth as well.
Yeah. So we probably want to get this open. I think what we need to do is finding a fish, put it in a bottle, and just drop it here.
Okay. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it worked in Ocarina of Time, so surely it will work here.
Ah.
Oh, door.
There's a door.
Doors also work.
If you press A.
If you can't find any fish, you could also use a door. So yeah, Zelda should have voice acting. Comment fight. I'm just causing trouble.
Yeah, Zelda should not have voices. Well, okay, I'm gonna give it this. If we let's just see what she has to say, because this might be important. So this is supposed to hold the time just stone, and there's a 95% chance that it's the same temple, and so I can't remember. Okay, so we find time shift stuff then, and put them here. Anyway, I think a lot of people say they don't want voice acting because they don't want Link to have a voice. But what I think people need to remember is that the two are, you know...
Right, like there's... it's not the same thing. There's silent protagonists are a thing. It's not the same thing as a silent game. Like the Half-Life games, Gordon Freeman is a silent protagonist. So when you go up to people, they talk to them. Yeah.
Metroid Prime 3, also a great example of this. And I think, yeah, sure. I mean, I wouldn't mind having other people involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, Link is someone I would want to have speaking.
But why not?
Well, because Link is supposed to be you. You shouldn't insert well, certainly you should not insert words, spoken or unspoken,
right,
into a person that is not you, that is supposed to be you.
Right, but in the end, like, they've deviated a fair amount from that for a long time. Like, we see that Link's not a mute. Like, he talks to people, he explains things to people.
No, I'm not saying, no, he's not a mute, but he can, I mean, in the fiction he can certainly speak. But he shouldn't say things that the player would not say. You get what I'm...
Well, this is the first game where they've introduced these dialogue trees where you have a few things, you have to choose one to say.
Right, but that's fine.
That's been around in a few games.
Yeah, and it's like kind of like you can choose what direction you're going. But
yeah. So in those cases, would you want Link to then say the option that you chose?
That doesn't matter. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's not... Like, my problem isn't whether Link talks when he does a dialogue tree. My problem is people that... I feel like it's holding the Zelda series back to have a lot of these things that are tradition for the sake of tradition, because they think, you know, they say, in the old Zeldas it had this, but like you have to remember, the old Zeldas didn't have voice acting or good graphics or instructions or good controls, because it was an old system.
Yeah, that couldn't support those things.
Right, like, you know, we could change this to a control system that was hard to do, and then call it difficulty. It's not real difficulty, it's just sort of limitations of its time. The original Zelda games. A lot of the difficulty came from I want to move up, but I'm having trouble with the thing, especially Adventure of Link.
Yeah, and I think even now, like with Skyward Sword motion controls that I personally like, I think that if, you know, motion control keeps on being a thing, in 10 years, we'll look back on Skyward Sword and it's like, oh, these motion controls were horrible. I'm trying to stab, I'm slashing.
Right.
And
so we shouldn't keep the stabbing when you want to slash just because it's traditional.
Right.
Yeah,
you have to differentiate what's actually timeless about it and what's just what they had because that's what they had then.
Yeah.
And I think voice acting is one of those things where a lot of, they talk about immersion, but a lot of games, the reason they have voice acting is for immersion. It breaks them out of it to be in this world and then have a text box and have someone say
Exactly. The mumbling.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sort of just at that point where I'm like, come on, just say something, like just voice act because.
Right, they're like fake voice acting because they're afraid to do it. But
exactly, that's the thing, they're afraid because I know certainly, even going back sort of 10 years ago in the Zelda community, a lot of fans were very against the idea of voice acting in Zelda. And a lot of them were quoting, but what if Link sounds like the cartoons or something? I mean...
Yeah, and that's something you can't use like a bad example. You can't use like the CDI as like,
exactly.
It went wrong here. That's kind of saying, we should never make a Mario movie because look at the Mario movie, it was terrible. Sure, but that doesn't mean you can't make a good Mario movie.
Right, like there can be movies or games with voices that are bad, but that doesn't mean that they're all bad. Like there's a disconnect. Like that's like saying, well, silent movies didn't have, look at this movie with voices. This guy has a silly voice. All movies should be silent movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Because what if they hire the voice of Mickey Mouse to play the serious
like the
detective character? Yeah.
Actually, that would be pretty scary. Yeah, the Terminator, like, I'm gonna kill you.
Well, that'd be like that voice of Ganondorf or something.
So let's see. Hold on, I'm just gonna kill some goblins.
So I think it goes back to what we were saying in the last episode too, that Nintendo need to take some risks.
Right.
Yeah. Alright, I don't have shields.
So Cody, do you think Link should speak if voice acting was in Zelda, or should he stay silent?
Well, see, I don't really care because it's not as big of an issue. I think maybe silent might be nice if, I think silent protagonists aren't a limitation of the times, but they're more so a stylistic choice. But voice acting in general, just having people talk instead of have weird mumbles, that's just...
Yeah.
It doesn't objectively... It doesn't mean anything, it's just sort of there because of tradition. Oh, an evil crystal. You can probably upgrade something now.
Yeah, very good. I want to add that let's go back to Link specifically for a second. If Link's... Where are we going?
I don't
This
know,
way.
I've been arguing, I've been paying attention to the game.
This way? We've been having opening stuff here, so... we're supposed to place a thing there, so... Okay. If they want Link to have a voice, then I suggest that Link should have more of a character on his own. He should be, because what they're trying to do now is make Link a blank sheet of paper essentially, so that you can fill in the gaps.
Well,
and
sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. They can't.
Well, okay, I'm going to say no. That they do it always, but sometimes they do it less successful than other times.
Yeah, and that does bring up another point that I thought about was that, your character development with Link himself, because you mentioned earlier that, Link is supposed to be you.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel that when I play. I've always imagined Link as, his own character.
Uh-huh.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm putting... of course I'm in his shoes because I'm controlling him, but I do feel like I'm guiding, this young boy and, through his adventure.
Because, and especially in some of the newer games, the fact that Link has a character is integral to the charm of the game. Wind Waker would not be the same if Link wasn't his own character, who cared about things, who was looking for his sister, who was crying when he left the boat to his hometown.
Yeah, and I would like to see...
And he has all these facial expressions of his own, which are a big part of the game. that is the charm of the Wind Waker, is that Link is a character and not a blank slate.
Yeah, and I would like to see more character development for Link.
Right.
I mean, Twilight Princess, he really just stood off to the sidelines, and he wasn't the hero of the piece. It didn't feel like that, even though he
I mean,
was.
that could be a stylistic choice, but like there's good examples of games and movies where like the main character isn't the main character of the overall story. Final Fantasy XII, if you played it, is one example of something like that, where like the princess and that are the main characters, but you're just sort of this kid that follows them around, who has his own story. Like that's okay, but it's like if it's not done well, and I feel like in Twilight Princess, Link was just sort of awkward.
Yeah, he definitely was.
Yeah. I guess because we were talking about the progression of technology earlier, so when I played Ocarina of Time, I felt like, because the world of Zelda in general, it had gone to 3D and there was so much more that you could do and it was awesome at the time. And Link had some character development in there. You start off and you're the boy without a fairy and you're getting bullied, and then you find out later that you're not Kokiri.
Right.
And I felt like that would be the direction that the series would take, that Link would have more of a character.
Yeah.
And as, the technology grew and we could fit more in, that, Link would have even more of a story.
Yeah.
Right. But I think, one thing that you have to think about is just, like, when we're talking about having us be Link or Link be us, that doesn't mean that, he can't have his own backstory and problems, because part of fiction like this is, of course, like putting ourselves in the situation and life of a character.
Yes.
So, you have to find the middle ground between letting a character have his own life, but let it also be our life. We have to sympathize with the character on a very deep level where we feel that we are one and the same.
Yeah,
At least when we are playing the game.
I think people seem to have contradictory views on like how much they want Link to be a blank slate, and how much they want him to be a character. Because these traditionalists who are angry about people trying to give Link a voice and stuff. There was a recent post about how someone changed the gender pronouns in the Wind Waker to female, and there was outrage, mass hysteria about, no, you can't change Link! Everyone, they're having fits, they were rolling on the ground,
right.
So if Link is a blank slate, then let them be a female customization option.
Yeah.
Actually, I do agree with that.
Yeah. And for me, in a way, I feel like it's... Oh, wait, whoops. Let's get this straight. I feel like with... which button do I scoop with? Oh, there we go. Okay, got it. So, I feel like, for me at least, it's kind of unnecessary. I don't feel like I need to choose, to be a boy or a girl. If the hero of the game is a girl, I can play with that. If it's a boy, I can play with that. I don't really care either way. But it's also very silly, of course, to have to throw a fit about, oh no, someone changed it to a girl. I think there are actually a lot of people who wouldn't mind to... what just happened?
Something that would make sense if you were in the past in the area that...
Okay, yeah, let's...
activated.
There we go. Okay. So, I probably wouldn't really care if there was a female, if we played as a female Link. I don't feel like it's a necessary addition, because I feel like, especially Link, he's a character that anyone can associate with, regardless of your gender.
Right, but still, I think, it's just weird the idea that, playing as a male character is the default, but then you need an explanation for why you want to have a female character.
I think
it's
I get it, but I think, in this case, there was also talk, there was a serious discussion thread on CU about changing James Bond to a black actor. And it's not that we change from one thing. Well, it is. It's not that we change from like male or white as the default. It's that we change from one thing to another without good reason.
Bond changes from one thing to another, from a blonde
He
guy
does,
to
exactly.
a brown-haired guy to a
Yes,
Scottish guy.
and Link also changes a lot.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, you might need a reason to change from a default to something else. You see what I mean?
Which we can discuss more in the next exciting episode of Skyward Sword.
Going forward and to the 5.
To the ship next.
Next time. See you then.